everybody. Shelley here from Atlantic Online. Just wanted to take a couple of minutes to chat with you today about a recent experience that I had with my business. And it was rather a negative experience, and I just wanted to share some thoughts with you on that so that some of the things that potentially could have happened to me and to some of my clients will not happen to you. So the theme of today's talk, if you will, is about controlling your online position. And I can't emphasize enough how very important it is as a business owner that you have complete control over all of your online assets. So let's just step back and think about that for a second. What exactly defines an online asset? Certainly your website, but let's take it a little step further and let's talk about your domain name. When you think about your domain name, that's the critical piece that allows your prospects to find you online. It's printed across probably all of your other marketing collateral, and it represents who your business is online because that's where you host and connect your website. So your domain name is a critical piece of your online identity, and you alone as the business owner should be the primary key holder. You should be the chatelaine of that piece of online collateral. So I strongly recommend that you ask yourself the question of, do I actually own my domain name? How do you know? Well, you should be able to log in with your own credentials into the registration company or the domain registrar where your domain name has been purchased and initially configured. So if you had hired a web person, a developer to take care of creating your website for you, that's great. But if you also pay an external company or that web person to take care of your domain name, then I think that's a bit of a flag. So you want to be careful there and make sure that you alone as the business owner have the credentials to log into the domain registration company where your domain name was purchased, and so that you have the authority over that. What would happen, for instance, if the company you're dealing with change their business direction or cease to exist? What if as well, if the web person who designed your site cease to operate in that same capacity? So you want to ensure that you indeed do own your domain name. If you need help with that, by all means, I'd be happy to provide you with some strategy as to how you go about determining that. But I think it's absolutely critical that you exercise ownership over that. And I ensure that all of my clients have authority over their own domains as well, because that's part of the succession planning. Another key critical piece, and this revolves in part with your domain name, but it's the hosting of your website, that which is attached to your domain name. I recently had a very, very negative experience with a local hosting company, which shall be nameless because the owner of this company is actually a fabulous person that had something terrible happen to his processes, if you will. And we had several clients located with a local hosting company, and I was in the process actually of migrating them away because I wasn't comfortable with the external resources that were on this hosting company, and that I didn't have the confidence there that the proper backups were in place. And that server actually crashed, and it resulted in some data loss, and it resulted in some websites being offline for a period of time. So, that does happen from time to time. However, we have to mitigate for those sorts of situations, and we have to be proactive to ensure that if that potentially can happen, we need to have, a strategic plan in place to allow us to operate in the face of a disaster like that. So I'd recommend that you take a look at your hosting plan as well and make sure that there are a couple of things in place. Number one, that the company you're dealing with has a redundant array or a very sophisticated backup system in place. And what I mean by redundant array is a series of multiple copies of your website in the event of a crash of a local system, that they can in turn look at sourcing the copy from another location and then keeping your website live. So that's known as a redundant array, and that's common practice for backups to ensure that you have backups of backups and so on. In addition to making sure that your hosting company offers this backup routine, I think it's a really good idea that you be able to access those backups. So if your company that you're dealing with has a reluctancy to provide you with a copy of your website, then that is a red flag, my friend. And I think that you should maybe step back and just reassess that. And I use a hosting company now. They're called Get Flywheel. And I've chosen them because, well, number one, they're number 2 in North America. They also provide a redundant array backup plan in place for me. And they also allow me to take copies of my sites as well. I say they're number 2 only because they don't offer enterprise-wide hosting. So they're geared towards the small business owner. They're geared toward agencies such as Atlantic Online who need this type of service. The other thing that I would ask that you consider is that your website be secure. And how you know it's secure is if your domain name in the URL bar has the preceding HTTPS preceding your domain name, but also too, the icon of the padlock should be in place on the Google URL bar. And that's imperative, in fact, for ranking within Google. Google, the domain authority or the web search authority for all things domain related, requires now that in order for the site to be ranked appropriately, that it be secured appropriately. So do ensure that your web hosting provider will provide you with secure socket layer, or this known, it's an industry term called SSL, which ensures that your website is operating in a secure domain. So those are some things that I implore you to look at as a small business owner in an effort to protect your online position. Do ensure that you have authority over your own domain, because that is your online presence, your online identity that you as a business owner should have sole propriety over. Also, to make sure that your hosting company allows you to take backups of your website, and it's part of my standard practice to do that. And I have an offsite storage solution in place that, yes, the hosting company does provide backups, but I have a copy of every site now, and I have that sense of security as a result, that just in case there is a disaster that occurs beyond anyone's control, that I, as the business owner and operator on behalf of several businesses for clients, that their sites are protected, and that's critical. Also, to make sure that you've got the secure socket layer in place to reflect that you have a secure environment. That would make Google feel better, because it'll help elevate you within the social engine rankings, but it's also going to make your prospects feel better, knowing that the environment you're operating in is secure. So that's my advice for today. Make sure that your assets are protected. Make sure that you do indeed own your domain name, and that you have the ability to have copies of your website. If you need some advice, or just simply want to strategize over how you can achieve the security online and how to protect and control your assets online, do feel free to contact me. I'd be more than happy to have a discussion with you on that. And yeah, it's not a good feeling to not be secure online. So I implore you to take measures to ensure that you have that sense of security, and that your assets, your online assets, are well protected. Thanks very much for being with me today. Bye for now.